So just get comfortable, closing your eyes, making sure your spine is nice and straight as you sit. It's just starting to get quiet, becoming present to this moment. Just placing your mind at the tip of your nose, at your nostrils, and you watch your breath here. Just watching it flowing in and out. See if you can feel little hairs in your nose move as you breathe. Picturing yourself atop a mountain. And everything's black. Whether you have your eyes open or closed, as you see yourself sitting here, it's pitch black. And then in the far distance, you see two little dots. You're starting to sense that someone else is there. And as those dots come closer, you see that their eyes. And they're the most compassionate eyes you've ever seen. They're so beautiful, filled with wisdom and love. And you're looking into these eyes. You're in complete awe. Seeing that those eyes are eyes of a realized being. The answer to every suffering lies in the eyes of this being. So as you look at these beautiful eyes, your heart starts to soften and open. And as your heart starts to open, the being starts to light up. And you start to realize that this being is you. This being is the future you. And as the future you look back at the you that still has a little ways to go. And you can see exactly what it is you still need to go through, what steps will be ahead. And as you look at the future you understand that you can't see yourself like this quite yet. Because there's still obstacles. So you ask this future you to help you remove all those obstacles so you can see yourself this way. And of course, be happy to help you. And because you realize you need to clear away your obstacles, start to make the most beautiful offering to this being that is you. The best thing you could ever give. And you make a confession, something that you've done in the last few days that you know cause obstruction to seeing yourself this way, that cause more suffering. Maybe a jealous thought, maybe an angry outburst. Whatever it was, confess it. However small or however big. And then you tell the future you something that you've done that is actually getting you there. Some virtuous act. And also you rejoice in all of the good deeds that the people in this room have been doing in the last days. And you ask future you to hold you by the hand and help you open your heart and take all the right steps so you can see yourself as that being, a being of love, a being of wisdom. And then this being turns around, facing the same way as you, and then starts to melt into your body. And then you dedicate all the efforts that you just made into this meditation to becoming a being of love and wisdom. And you can open your eyes. Class 6. We are still talking about nirvana. I think it would be good to just repeat what nirvana is. If anyone can tell me. What it is. I know it's a little bit of a switch out of this meditation to now we're talking and thinking again. But yeah.
You don't want the long definition, just
You can say it in your words. You can give me a long definition too if you know it.
yeah, that long one was a humble to remember. The short one is a place where we no longer have mental afflictions. The definition they said was a cessation caused by individual analysis, which consists of eliminating mental affliction obstacles in its entirety from one's mental stream.
That's impressive. Yeah. And what does that mean, the individual analysis?
That realizing the four area truths after seeing emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
It's after seeing emptiness that you realize these four truths.
Mm-hmm.
We know them, but they actually, he said they know about how many past lives, how many future lives are remaining. They lose doubt in the path.
Yeah, cessation of doubt.
Cessation. Or the truth of suffering, cause of suffering,
Yeah.
cessation of suffering, end of the path to the cessation.
Yeah. So you understand how it is that we create our suffering, and now you will no longer do that. Yeah. And what is a mental affliction? Because you're saying, so when we have reached nirvana, we have no more mental afflictions. What does it mean to have mental affliction?
It's not movement of the mind.
No.
No,
Let's say
that's
karma.
karma.
Karma is movement of the mind. Yeah. In your words, like what? How would you describe what is it? What is it that we're trying to get rid of?
Just mental. That would be just seeing things that are as self-evident.
Yeah.
But that's bigger. Like when you say that's the.
Yeah.
I don't think I know really kind of what the.
So mental
Mental
affliction, it's good to know what we're trying to get rid of, right? Mental affliction is described as anything that disturbs the mind. So when you have reached nirvana, nothing disturbs you anymore. So anything that disturbs the mind, and you are right, seeing things as self-existent is disturbing your mind because it's causing you to react a certain way, right? But say if I'm feeling jealous or angry or have, just things for me, all of that stuff is disturbing because I'm not happy when I have any of those kind of thoughts, right? So when you don't have those anymore, you're happy. When
anything
you're no
that
longer
takes you away from.
Sorry?
Anything that takes you away from your happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. And it closes your heart off, right? When I feel jealous, I don't feel love at the same time. So it's closing off instead of opening. And when your heart is open, you will experience the world differently, right? And you know that. You know that once you've had a really good yoga class and you're just feeling wow, anybody can say anything to you in that moment, but it won't disturb you, right? So hopefully you can get a sense of what it's like, when you're not so invested in yourself and grasping that moment where you feel so open and so loving towards anybody. You can't really feel disturbed at that time, right? And it's very beautiful.
So it's thoughts or feelings that disturb.
Yeah. Yeah. I had that first big moment like that when I had energy healing treatment and I walked out and everything was just so beautiful and I just wanted to hug everybody and I felt so much love, like it was almost overwhelming how much love I felt for her. And there was a candy on the counter I put in my mouth and it just tasted like I've never tasted before, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, how do you do that? I said to the man who treated me, like,
What kind of treatment?
it was bioenergy healing. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you could
Yeah.
feel like that after yoga class or after playing a song or whatever. I'm just saying that if you know that you can feel like that for a moment, you know it's possible to feel like that. And that was, for me, kind of the start of this whole path, because I saw that and I'm like, well, I'd like to strive to feel like this all the time, because it's so beautiful to just be in love with everybody. And I asked him, like, what would you do? And he said to me, well, that's going to be a lot of work. I'm like, hey, I'm game, I'll do it, because you showed me that it's possible. Which again, when causes and conditions are in place, you can feel like that after having a shower, singing a song. Any moment, it doesn't come from, it didn't come from that treatment that I received. It so happened to be, how do you say, the delivery system of my karma, right? But if you think about maybe a situation that you've had where you just felt ecstatic, like so happy, then you know that it is possible to feel like that. And if you can feel like that for a minute, why wouldn't it be possible to feel like that all the time? We just have to remove the things that keep us suffering, right? If you remove that, so once you have that individual analysis, as Hogan was describing so nicely, you understand that you no longer will put those things in place to create more suffering. So when you don't put that in place, then your mind will not be clouded by disturbances, right? So it's good to think about all of these things and what it is you want. Like, why are you here? I think it's a really important question to ask, It's nice to hear an hour and a half of me yapping away. But it's up to you to think about these things and apply them to your world, apply them to everything, if that's what you want, It's up to you to think about it, and it's good to question things. Ask questions, sit on your meditation cushion and try to figure this stuff out, But think about what it is that motivates you to come here. I had this week, it was my husband's birthday, and I was trying to impress him by baking my Dutch apple pie for him. I was going to make a nice dinner, and I was really busy. Around 5, 6 o'clock is a very busy time for me, because I'm trying to, prep everything for my family. And at that time, my kids found a squirrel in the alley that was not doing very well. It was pouring rain, so it was a little bit hard to see if the squirrel was actually hit by a car or if he ate poison, or I don't know. But he wasn't moving, but was still breathing. So we put him in a box and put a little blanket around and put the box by the heater, and to me, that was a good enough gift because it looked like he was gonna die any moment. And just to give him that little love, put him in front of the heater, I thought, that's nice for him. His name is Chunky. But my kid, I didn't say this, but that's what my thought was. And, I thought, okay, we did a good deed. Chunky's here. He can just die here peacefully. But my kids, no, we have to save Chunky, right? Which means we have to go to the wildlife rescue as my pie is just put in the oven and I'm, busy cooking and it's rush hour, it's pouring rain outside. And the last thing I want to do is get with the whole clan in the car and go, on the highway and stuff. I have a very old car and my windows fog up very badly and I find it challenging to drive. So we're on the HOV lane and I have to take an exit. I have to change 4 lanes and I can't see nothing and it's pouring rain and it's so much traffic. It's not fun for me. Do you hear all this me, right? I thought we could just let her die. But my kids had different plans, so I thought, well, I cannot possibly take that away from them. They are opening their hearts right now. They want to help little Chunky, and I have to give them that. I have to give them the virtue of caring for something. So we did. So as I'm driving on the highway, and I'm having not a great time, I'm just yelling back, Chunky, this is all for you. So we made it to the place and we dropped him off. And my boys were just like, oh, I just feel so good to have done that. And that was sweet, I thought it was very sweet. Fortunately, Chunky did die. I phoned yesterday, but it's a good, I think that's why we need other people around us to push us a little bit into, not making things all about you, right? It's nice to do good deeds and to see my kids happy and satisfied for doing something, that they felt was the best thing to do. And I'm helping them to collect merit. Also helping myself to collect merit, especially because I didn't really want to do it, but I did it anyways, right? So it's a whole big merit festival, if you can see it that way, right? And I think for the squirrel it was nice too, because his last moments of his life were, he was taken care of. He was in a nice warm place, and his breathing was very calm. He wasn't freaking out at all. So I think, I don't know how he was feeling, but it felt like, everybody gained from this whole situation, even though, Chunky didn't make it. So to have other people on your mind, helps open your own heart too. And we need that. We need other people, whether it's your neighbor or your friend or anybody that you work with, whatever. We need people because they are the soil where we plant our seeds of virtue. And we need that virtue in order to come to the understanding how reality really works. To come to the understanding of emptiness, right? Of those 4 area truths that Hogan was describing so nicely. So last week we were starting with dividing nirvana in 4 ways. And the first division wasn't really nirvana, remember? Remember what it was called?
Natural.
Yeah, natural nirvana. And it was really just another word for emptiness, often referred to in scriptures. Just a synonym for emptiness, natural nirvana. And one of the reasons why it's called nirvana is that it's not involved with mental afflictions. It's free from mental afflictions. And their seeds from the beginning. So now we'll move into the second division, which is actually a type of nirvana this time. And it's called Lakche Nyangde. Say Lakche Nyangde. So lak is meaning something left over. Also meaning leftovers. If you have in Tibetan, if you have some food left over in your fridge, it's also lak. So something left over, a remainder. Che is having, and Nyangde is nirvana. So nirvana with something left over. So what could that refer to? So you have reached nirvana, but you still have something left over. What would that be?
Seeds for seeing mental affliction.
I don't think so. But there is still see, I don't know that for real. What it refers to is that you still have your body left over. So say you could reach nirvana tomorrow. You still have the same body. Which this body was created and influenced by karmic seeds. So I guess in a way that what you're saying is right. I mean, you could maybe see it as like a potter's wheel that just you stop pumping it, but it still kind of keeps spinning until it's not. Like still having that momentum, right? But are they still suffering? Like is there still suffering left? There shouldn't be, because we say nirvana, the definition of nirvana is that you've had a cessation of that, right? But there's stories of arhats, people that have reached nirvana, that are being killed, So you wonder if they're suffering or not. I don't know. I don't know how they experience that. To me it would look like suffering, but I don't know how they experience it. There's this famous story of the king Udayana. He, I believe, he had received teachings on the Wheel of Life painting, and he went to live with Lord Buddha. He gave up his throne, and then his son was kind of taking over and wasn't doing a great job, killing lots of his people. So he decided to go and stop him, and as he did that, his son killed him. But this king was said to be an arhat, someone who had reached nirvana. And he was trying to do a good deed by stopping his son, and then got killed in the process. So I don't know how he experienced that. I don't know. But at least what I can tell you is that he had abandoned the truth of suffering. He would not create any more suffering. It is not possible at all. He would not be able to, get angry at his son, or have something that would create more suffering. That's not possible. But whether it hurt in that moment, I don't know.
I'm just looking at the way in the notes that it's described, and this is just a thought that occurs out of very little information here. And it says here that the nirvana was something left over. You attain nirvana and still have your body left over to finish this life. So that, to me, given that how little it is, that it suggests that the person has achieved nirvana. They're still an entity in this world.
Mm-hmm.
They're continuing. They have their body left. And then the next one says, nirvana with nothing left over, you attain nirvana and don't have a body after you die. So I'm just wondering if they're successive. That, to me, this is just a thought, because I don't know any better, but just looking at it, that nirvana with something left over is a person that achieved nirvana. They're living in this world, and they have their body still. And then there's a second stage of nirvana, where they won't, after they die, they won't have the body. So I'm just wondering if they can be successful.
I think it's possible. Yeah, I do think that. And what we'll talk about right now is when it says there's the second one is that there's nothing left over. What it means is that you cannot create any new suffering. You cannot have another body of suffering. Okay. So when we say there's still something left over, we, if I reach nirvana tomorrow, I still have this thing, right?
Yeah.
Which is caused out of suffering. And in Buddhism, they talk about the 5 heaps. Okay? So we'll unpack those right now. So they say, and it's a little bit of a different concept for us Westerners to divide who we are in these 5 heaps. So heaps as in piles. The first heap or pile is your form. So it's your body. So it's this thing, right? And then the second, it's feeling. Okay, so let's just back up for a second. In the physical body, the first one is form. Okay, so there are beings that only have 4 heaps. They don't have form. Okay, there are beings that we might not be able to see or experience, but they can be formless. Okay, so they would only have 4 heaps. Because those are mental beings. The second heap is the heap of feeling. And the heap of feeling can be either a good, bad, or neutral. Okay, but there's always something going on. You're always feeling. It's a mental function. It's a feeling that accompanies every state of mind. So it's always going. So you can call it pain, pleasure, or neutral. And then the third one is discrimination. So discrimination is the ability to distinguish between two things. It's also a mental function. So discrimination is, I like this, I don't like that. This is good, this is bad. Boy, girl, blue, green, like that. You're distinguishing between things. Fourth heap is other factors. This is the heap that includes everything that's not mentioned in the other ones, okay? Which is a lot, because in Buddhism they say that there's 46 mental functions. Okay, we only have 2 in these heaps, so all other factors would include, 44 other mental things, like love, anger, jealousy.
So that's not part of feeling? So you're talking emotions?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess so.
Is this the fourth one or the fifth one?
The fourth one is all other factors, yeah, and then the fifth one is the consciousness, the main mind. So why is it that feeling and discrimination get their own section in these 5 heaps, and the other mental functions, don't?
I'm thinking what you're saying about the feeling. That's interesting, and how you're thinking feeling. We think of feeling. Okay, feeling can be emotional, love, hate, etc. But I'm wondering if feeling is a very raw interpretation. That's that visceral, yes or no. Yes, like it. No, don't. Because
It's
So
feeling,
it's just that
sensing.
it's not even a subtype yet at that point of love or hate. You know what I mean?
Just like good or bad karma.
Yeah, it's just like
Good
aversion, attraction, that kind of thing. Very elementary. Maybe that, very elemental.
Could be. Yeah, actually doesn't really say. It's a good point. But the reason they say that feeling and discrimination get their own little section is because they're the troublemakers.
For sure.
Because of those 2, we are causing samsara, we are causing suffering, right? So we're calling these heaps impure when we are not in nirvana, or when we're not total enlightened being, right? When you are that, you still have heaps.
So why would
They won't be
consciousness be a heap and not, like, consciousness is nirvana, so.
Consciousness is not nirvana. Consciousness is here described as in 6 ways. like you have 6 consciousness. So you have your mental awareness, your eye awareness, your ear awareness, your taste and touch. Okay. So your awareness that's triggered by these faculties
Sensory consciousness.
are your sensory awareness. Yeah.
Then again, I think maybe it occurs to me maybe there's an even more elemental.
Because I can be conscious and I'm not in nirvana. Yeah. Right.
So it's beyond the 5 heaps, is what we know. Or underneath them.
So all of these heaps are impure because it's all steeped in ignorance. It's all steeped in thinking that things are self-existent.
Consciousness, isn't
Yeah.
Our understanding.
You're either conscious or you're not.
No.
You're not well, I guess you can be semi-conscious, but
It's interpretation too, right?
It is.
We're always
But
in-
the awareness is okay. So I smell something, and then we start to label all that smell with our feeling, with our discrimination, right? But yeah, I understand what you're saying. The conscious is more behind it all. It's not necessarily suffering. The way it's told here is these are the 5 suffering heaps. So I guess they go just kind of hand in hand.
I
But
can't be conscious and suffer at the same time. Like, those exclude each other. Like, you don't,
you can.
Yeah.
You can.
That's why we suffer.
This is like, the incident, just what we were experiencing, and the karma making me conscious. And our interaction didn't make me feel good. I can say whatever, came from past seeds, past actions. I'm conscious. I was conscious of it, but then
But you're not suffering if you're conscious.
It,
Like, then I don't
You can
understand
feel.
I don't understand the definition of suffering. Because I thought suffering meant when we are driven by our afflictions and we are not aware, basically.
just
What is
my interpretation, just my experience of is not. So,
we can struggle. I see suffering and struggling as different things. I mean, yeah, we could struggle and be in consciousness, but can we really suffer if we're conscious?
awareness is consciousness is always happening, right? Like right now, I'm aware of you.
Fully? No. Partly. Sorry, I mean, I'm going to guess. I'm just saying, partly, you might be, but I'm aware of you, but I'm partly aware of you, right? Like, there's other things going on. I don't need to take over right now, but it just is confusing.
Simply being aware of something. We overlay everything. If we stop doing that, then we're not suffering. But I can be aware of being in this room at the same time. If I'm not a Buddha yet, I am suffering. Right?
Yeah, so it is a different definition because what I've studied as far as consciousness, there's 3 types of awareness, or how you say. And one, I don't know if I should try to interweave these, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I should just throw
Maybe
it out.
best to not.
so different definitions for the same word.
Yeah, I know it can be tricky because we have the main mind and then we have the small mind, and generally we operate from that small mind, right? Let's just leave it for now.
Okay,
And
I'm happy with that.
basically, when we don't understand how we create suffering, we will keep on creating more suffering. So this is why we need to see emptiness directly. Once we do that, we can start to make our way to nirvana. Because when we understand how it is we're creating our suffering, then we will stop doing that. And we will no longer cycle in that pain. And a big part of that is self-grasping. Once we see emptiness, we understand that that will never make us happy. Can't. So we will have pure heaps once we become an Arya. So that brings us to the third one, where there's nothing, or is that the fourth one? Where there's nothing left over. Okay, third one. So say lak me nyangde.
Lak me nyangde.
So it's spelling is the same except for we're adding me, and in Tibetan that's always like a negative thing. Okay, so now nirvana with nothing left over. So here you die. You cannot create a new body made out of suffering. What makes it a little bit tricky too is that right now we're not in the highest school, right? We're in one below, the Svatantrika school. Because in the highest school, which is the one that we normally study, we go for full Buddhahood, right? We don't strive for nirvana. We want to skip it. Because when we have bodhicitta in our heart, we can be fully enlightened beings. So when you don't have that, you can get rid of all your mental afflictions, but it's just for you. Okay? And so in the higher school, we say, well, no, let's just skip that and get to the highest possible. So some schools say that when you're in this third one, that that's that, like that. I'm getting it mixed up now. Just forget about that. Okay. So in this division, you have nothing left over. So no more dirty heaps. Okay. And then in the fourth division, say mi ne pe, nyangde, sita, shita. So minepe is not to stay. Meaning not to stay in a lower nirvana and not to stay final and extreme. So you're not staying in the extreme of samsara or the extreme of peace. So meaning this would be Buddhahood. So this is the highest school version. Okay. So actually what I just said is in the higher school we don't want to waste our time to stay in a lower nirvana. We just want to help all beings, so let's just skip that and become fully enlightened. So when it says don't stay in the extreme of samsara, so okay, you won't stay in samsara, but you also won't stay in the extreme of peace, meaning in your happy place in a lower nirvana. Okay. Don't want to stay in a place where only you are happy. So here you eliminated the obstacle of bad thoughts, which is the cessation of all your mental afflictions. But you also have eliminated obstacle to omniscience. So when you're a Buddha, you are omniscient, meaning you know all things, past, present, future, all at once. And this will help you to help beings. So those are the 4 divisions of nirvana. So we'd like to strive for the last one because we can be of the most use, right?
Ultimately, though, when we make other people happy, we're happy. So,
yeah.
It's like your analogy about taking chungde or
Chunky.
chunky. Like, you made yourself happy because you made your kids happy.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
like, there's so much subconscious stuff we're not aware of. Sorry, I don't mean to throw a wrench in this, but we don't know. We don't, as humans, can we really get through all those layers? Like, even if we do things, our motivation to doing things are so deeply ingrained from, like you say, karma, that I almost think, is it even possible? Like, it's possible if it's natural and intuitive, and you've learned from suffering to not suffer. But to force yourself to be kind to get to this place seems to me a little bit counterproductive.
Forcing yourself to be kind.
Yeah. Well, the way I guess I'm thinking like, well, duh, let's help people, right? But it's like we have to tell people you've got to do this so you can get to nirvana. I don't. Yeah, maybe I'm just being. What's the third pile? Discernment is one of the shitty thing that you're just stuck in. Maybe that's what I'm doing. I don't know. But it kind of throws me when we don't need a reason to help people. I think the fact that we have to convince ourselves to help people is kind of missing the point.
Well, I can speak from my experience. Like, I find it very hard a lot of the time to be kind. But I know that is just my past conditioning.
Okay. Yeah.
And that conditioning is intuitive. It's what the learned behavior, in a way. It's a deep behavior, right? It's not a reasoning behavior. It's a reasoned behavior. Now, I know I can see the pattern that this behavior doesn't create better happiness for anybody, even, so even though it's so conditioned and I want to respond that way, I know it's going to cause me greater suffering, so I have to fight to do something which is truly kind, but so hard for me. But the more I do it, the easier it is. And I believe it. I believe in the truth of it, even though viscerally and through my conditioning, my karma, whatever, that's that piece of karma. It's so difficult for me, and that's my struggle.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very important what you're saying. Yeah, and I do want to add that for some people, certain things are more natural than other aspects, right? I always use my daughter as example, but she's naturally very generous, right? I'm not. I had to teach myself, and still am. It's not a natural thing for me. For her, nobody had to teach her in this life. She just gives everything away, all the time. It's just mind blowing. There's no effort there. For me, it's taken lots of effort. Every time I want to take the last cookie or something, I have to stop myself. Okay, it's not natural for me because part of me is I want that, right? And now less and less, but yeah, like Kara saying, over and over, because I know that I'll be happier once I don't want stuff for myself. Why I'm not so concerned for myself, but when I am concerned, for other people to have the last whatever, it's just a stupid example, but and then other things are more natural to me, so I think we all have our certain things where we have to struggle extra hard with, but I think that Carol explained that very, very beautiful. Is that that it's not going to make you any happier if you're going to be unkind back, even though you really want to be unkind in that moment, but you realize it's not helping you.
Well,
that said, you can be unkind, but not at the point where you still hold on to this self, maybe when you're further along and you see that the best thing you could ever do for this person in this moment is to be unkind, you do that. But it's not out of selfishness, it's out of love, actually. Yeah. So that's a whole different thing. But yeah, does it make sense?
Yeah, it did. But it takes me back to we're all here to learn through different lessons, the same thing. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Everybody's path will look completely different. We will all need to, and this is just guidelines,
Okay. So when you say helping, you're not saying just being kind to people, right? You're basically saying what it means in your path.
I'm just trying to say daily examples, right? In the end, the best way to ever help anybody is through karma and emptiness. That is the biggest gift you could ever give anybody, because that's the thing that will eliminate the suffering. But when people are not ready to hear that, you just give them cookies till the cows come home and teach them that way by just being generous or whatever. Yeah.
To me, it's that you just got to accept people for who they are and what they do, and that's how you help people.
I think that's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Because us putting our judgments on whatever somebody we don't know, right? So.
Absolutely.
So we can't, and in some ways we can't really help people other than just accepting them.
Well, believe me, those people that you're accepting, a lot of people aren't. So that's a real gift to show that.
And you are helping them. And you are helping them.
And they're not used to receiving.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And just by being, if you are no longer pulled by all your stuff, you stand differently in the world. And everywhere you go, you have an impact on people. At the counter, at the deli, or whatever, everywhere. That's how you are helping people, because there's one less person that is driven by their grasping self, that only wants for itself. I saw something on the news that a guy was standing underneath the Walmart sign waiting for it to fall down on his head so he could sue Walmart. Seriously. So this is self-grasping. If there's, one less person in the world that is driven by stuff like that, how can I get? How can I take advantage of other people so I can be better or something? One less person in that, you're a gift to the whole world, if you are walking around with an open heart. And the way to get to nirvana is to realize that nothing has any self-nature. So a training of wisdom